Welcome to the podcast where we focus in on content creators. Today, we talk to FatBrett, an author and video essayist that's subject matter is video games. He started his channel 2 years ago, and his videos together have gotten over 20 million views. We'll get to know him a bit, while also talking about his start, journey, and process behind his videos. All while playing Uno and talking about quite a bit more. On this episode of Uno Mas. But yeah, I start with a little bit of get to know you questions, just simple kind of things on, like, for example, what are your hobbies? Usually, I think my game just crashed. Okay, well, I'll continue the question, I suppose, but I'll restart that. Usually content creation is a hobby to a certain point, and it probably starts to feel like work, so I don't know quite what stage you're at, but maybe content creation is still a hobby. But regardless, what are your hobbies?
A hobby's anything you do, right? So, yeah, I play video games and I make videos about video games. I read books and I write books and I hang out with my cats, and that's about 90% of everything I do in my entire life nowadays.
Yeah. How many cats you got?
In this house that I'm in, there are 7 cats and 1 dog. There's
okay.
A lot of animals in this house right now.
Yeah, that's quite a few, but nothing wrong with that. Love animals.
It's pretty fun most of the time. It certainly is an amount of work.
Yeah. I had another question that I wondered. Oh, you said that you write books as well. That doesn't really come as too much of a surprise. It seems like with your channel especially, there's a lot of creative writing elements, obviously in there. I think that's a no-brainer with kind of a video essay styled channel. But do you primarily write like fiction or like what do you aim to kind of do with the creativity there?
I've written 2 books. I finished one of them right before I started making the channel. And then that one was a cosmic horror novel set around the 48 hours surrounding the execution of the Romanov Russian royal family during the Russian Revolution. And then that one got rejected by over 100 agents and publishers and never published.
Oh.
And then I finished another one like this week, which was originally meant to be a prequel to that book. But it's a prequel to a book that doesn't exist, as it turns out. So I'm just like a crazy person, basically.
Interesting. I apologize. My game crashed again. I'm reinstalling it. I don't
already.
I do have a backup plan in the case that this will not work, because there are several free versions online. However, what is going on, I don't know, but
that's pretty
cool. There, I did notice in a lot of your videos there was like a lot of like historical references. Like you did bring in kind of some backstory compared to certain things. Are you pretty big into history or like a history buff in a lot of ways?
I don't know if I could call myself a buff, but I certainly spend a great deal of time reading about history and listening to history podcasts. Once upon a time, I wanted to be a history major, but I got scared out of it by some teaching assistant who said, can't remember exact words, but something to the effect of, I don't know, like 1 out of 1,000 history majors actually get a job in anything history related.
Oh.
But then I switched over to English instead, which of course has such a much higher job placement rating.
I was going to say, I think that part of me feels like that statistic is just true for any major. I don't know. I mean, I feel like trying to think of like friends that I made in college and how many are actually like in the jobs that they.
That's definitely true. I think I was just looking yesterday at and it was just like a meme, so who knows how true this is, but it was like a list of like what are the majors that have the highest unemployment rating?
Hmm.
And I think the number one was art history, which I'm kind of shocked that art history is even its entire own major. That's quite surprising to me.
Yeah. But cool about the books and writing. Let's see if this game works. I'll figure out something to have going on the screen during this, but I'll just continue talking
Okie
and
dokie.
asking you stuff. But what's your favorite music at the moment? What kind of music do you tend to enjoy if it falls into one category?
This is an unfortunate question that for years, I've been disappointing people
Hmm.
with my answer that I'm one of those very rare people who just doesn't listen to very much music.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
just I've been disappointing people for years and years now when I say that. I,
Hmm. Well, I guess so. Earlier, you had said that you do listen to a good amount of like history podcasts and stuff like
hmm,
that. If you have any time where most people were to just throw on some music, do you tend to lean towards podcasts and information?
I assume that's true. Yeah, I listen to a ton of podcasts for sure. The
Hmm.
only time like I'll throw on like video game soundtracks when I'm working, but that's just to have like anything on in the background.
Hmm. Um, what are some of the more common podcasts that you do listen to?
Um, let's see. I'm a big fan of the Dollop. If you've ever heard of that, it's two comedians. They will kind of run through a like a historical story for like an hour, like just some kind of
Hmm.
weird, quirky thing in history, and then just make fun of it the whole time. And it's very very funny.
Hmm.
It's been it's been one of my favorites for a while now. There's a history of Byzantium podcast that's running right now. That is it's a sequel to there was a history of Rome podcast that was very popular like years and years ago now, but it's a sequel to that focused on the Eastern Roman Empire that survived the collapse of the West, and it's been going on for a long time now too. And that guy is he's very very good at it as well.
Cool. I like. I have a 40-minute drive to work each day, one way, and so a lot of that time's filled up with doing podcast or listening to podcasts. So I'm always like, whether it be new music or in this case, asking about what kind of podcasts you like. It's always fun to kind of get some other like I don't know, almost suggestions to
Hmm.
give a shot. And I do like history breakdowns, and I there's a few podcasts that I follow that are two comedians just talking about random
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and so that kind of sounds like an interesting
The
blend of
Dollop
things there.
is plus it's been around for like 10 years, so it has like 1,000 episodes or something.
Oh, okay,
So you can dig in for a long time, but they are
cool,
delightful at times.
cool. Who are the comedians that host it?
I should know that right off the top of my head. Dave Anthony and Gareth Reynolds is the other guy's name.
Hmm,
I don't think they
okay,
were ever really huge in as comedians. I think it was really this podcast that
kind of
is
got
their
them
real
a little
claim to
more
fame.
known.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I don't recognize those names, but either way, I'm gonna check out that podcast. I'm going to. So I did a couple of troubleshooting things on here with the game, and consulted Steam. And there's one thing that I'm testing here, starting to back up, see if I can get it to work. One of the things said it might be my firewall, so I double checked that, but don't know. There are, like I said, some online versions, and though it's less ideal, I figure if it comes to it, maybe we could throw on one of those.
Yeah, it works. I only just bought this today because I realized I didn't even actually own a copy.
Oh. Well, I didn't.
So any Uno
intend on asking you to
for me.
Spend some money.
Oh, it was $10. That's the price of a McDonald's cheeseburger these days.
Yeah. Okay. Fingers crossed. See if this actually works. Come on. Nope. Okay, screw it. I'll find an online one instead of wasting more of your time.
Okie dokie.
Let's see. So, online Uno with friends. See what comes up there. One of the URLs is scuffed Uno. What is going on with this? Online play. Create room. Well, heck with it. I'll try it. All right. Well, get my questions back up and hopefully this will work. I really don't know what was going on there. I feel bad that I know obviously it's only $10, but god dang it.
Well, you never know, when I might need a copy of Uno.
Oh, well, that's true. I'm gonna. Do you want to just face one another, or would you rather have some AI in here? Because initially I was thinking AI, but I don't.
Yeah, if AI is an option, but I mean, I don't care. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll see what we got. Of course. Okay. Yeah, so that was the two kind of get to know you questions. I like to also start off with a little bit of like a hypothetical that's totally normal. But I recently discovered kind of another odd one. I sent you the link. And so I've got two questions basically, but to distinguish which one I ask, pick a number between 1 and 100.
Number 1.
1, okay. So if it's an odd number, okay. Now you get the new question. So if you had a magical pocket dimension in your left sock and you could store and retrieve any 3 things, what would you choose to stash in that sock's secret realm? Indefinite supply. 3 things.
3 things. Can I stuff a cat in there? Will it die in the pocket realm? Is it going to be okay?
I'm going to say because it's a realm. It's not just this little confined space. I'd say a cat's fine.
So it's like a whole realm. Like if I stick it in there, and then my other 2 are like a litter pan and a toy, and it'll be okay.
Yeah. I mean that would work.
And I can pull out an emergency cat whenever I need one.
That is very true. So your 3 things are 1 cat and then the things to care for that cat?
Yeah, some cat caretaking tools.
Okay.
Maybe food and water. Maybe that would make more sense. Just to make sure the cat's doing okay.
Yeah, of course. That is an amazing answer. I'm thrown off a little bit because in no way would I have pictured that being the answer. Right. So I love that answer.
I
But
really, the one drawback from like cat to dog is that you can take dogs with you.
that
You
is true. It doesn't tend to go terribly well if you try to take a cat with you.
Cats don't like to travel.
Mm-mm. Okay.
But hey, pocket cat, you're at the waiting room at the doctor, just pull out your pocket cat,
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Um,
pop it right back in there once you're done.
Actually, I think there was an app I used to play called Pocket Cats or something like that. I'm trying
It
to think of
sounds
what it
like an
was.
app.
It was either that or like something to do with battle cats or something. It was like you had these like horribly drawn cats and you just like took them into battle basically. And they're just like storming castles and stuff and you're like in charge of which ones get dropped and stuff.
Hmm. This sounds like every mobile game I've ever played.
I mean,
Just
you're not
about.
wrong. It's not entirely out of the box thinking, out of the litter box thinking, but it's
Nice.
yeah. Anyway, whatever. Dumb questions. I really like that answer though.
Mm.
But let's talk about your channel a little bit. So usually what I do is I will take kind of the first video on the channel, on someone's channel, and then kind of compare it to what kind of content they make now.
Oh, there's a
So
big
it's like
difference. It's been a big change.
it has, because your very first video is the greatest love song of our generation.
It was a lot
But
of fun to make, I'll tell you
also,
that.
I mean, it sounded like it. But also, it is an outlier to the other things you create.
Mm.
So my question for it has kind of two parts. What led to that video's creation, and what inspired the video essays that you now create?
Um, Gosh, I mean, like way back when, if the YouTube channel was just kind of like a fun project, just to play Wii games and then make little silly videos about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a while. I did that for like, I don't know, 6 months to a year, maybe. And all the videos got like, I mean, they would get like one view. They'd get like
Mm-hmm.
5 views. Like they
Mm-hmm.
were, truly no one was watching any of those besides like my mom and my best friend. That was my entire audience. Um, and so but I kept up with it. I mean, it was a video a week there for a long time. And then I started doing just a couple videos about new games every now and then, like little reviews and things. And those didn't really get any views either. And then whenever the God of War Ragnarok came out, and I was like, well, I love God of War, so I can do a video about this. And so I did a little video about how that series had changed from the Greek games to the Norse games, which is a really fascinating topic because I mean that series has. I don't think there's any series, any franchise in any media like cinema, video games, whatever, that has changed more than God of War has. Like it's just a completely unique, fascinating kind of development that it's gone on. And so I did a little video about that. And then that one had like, I don't know, like 100,000 views. And then I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna do another. Like as soon as Ragnarok came out, I rushed through it as quickly as possible because I was like, oh, I'm gonna do another video, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe that one will do good too. And I did, and I did another one, and it got like 100,000 more views or something. And I was like, well, this is what I do now because making videos that get 100,000 views is a lot more fun than making videos that only get 5 views.
For sure. Okay. So what I guess when you were when you started off doing sorry, I'm trying to figure out how this one compares to the normal one I'm used to playing. And never mind. Anyway, the overall like format, it is a video essay. You're talking. there's multiple points you're hitting on and all that. What kind of inspired you to take on that approach? Like, was it that kind of adaptation of creative writing into, you wanted to make it into video form and talk about Wii games and all?
Um, I don't know. I mean, the Wii games, those videos were so different. Those were kind of like memey and internet humory and
Hmm.
goofy. And then that's kind of the one sad thing about this channel is that it's gotten so stupidly serious, which makes me sad sometimes. So I'd love to work some more humor into the videos again because I really prefer there to be a bit more humor. But I mean, originally it was entirely just. I mean, it was just a way to waste time. Really, I was unemployed at the time and I had nothing to do. I mean, I could either like go look for a real job or start a YouTube channel and pretend like I was doing work. And so that's what I did. But I don't know. The kind of the marriage between like the creative writing and the writing about video games happened. Not it wasn't planned, it just kind of happened naturally, organically, I guess. Just over time, like with that God of War video. And then I don't know. I mean, it wasn't the initial plan. And then even with the first couple God of War videos, I didn't really think of it in terms of this is creative writing. But
Okay.
definitely now, uh, there's a lot more, or at least I think of it much more as creative writing, and the marriage between the two seems very natural and obvious. And like I constantly think to myself, why was I not doing this 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Like when I was sitting in a like a studio apartment and like working at a call center and like hating every minute of my life. Like if I knew that I could be making a living, like I could have been paying rent doing this awesome thing, which is so much fun and so cool. Like why was I not always doing this? It's so obvious that this is
Hmm.
something I could have been doing, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
It is kind of interesting. I've run into as I'm talking to different guests and stuff. It's like I have kind of my questions that I've looked at the channel, and obviously there's no way to see the channel from your perspective, you know.
Hmm.
But I take a surface level thing, and it's like, okay, I think this is what's going on here. Here's what's going on in the videos. Let me ask about that and try to get more information. Um, but then, like through talking to you, there's certain things where it's like, you kind of either a question that you have later on is answered, or there's like where it's like, oh, that one actually doesn't make as much sense, or something like that, because like
Hmm.
you kind of somewhat answer it, I suppose. But um, kind of a minor instance of that would be the next question that I had written down, which was, the initial aim of the channel. You were saying that you're going to review every single Wii game, and then obviously that did take the back burner when you realize that there's a like a good amount of potential for making more serious, videos, and
Hmm.
you've found a good amount of success in God of War. Um, the question was, do you plan on returning to every Wii game ever, like that kind of series as like a little thing, or is it one of those things where it's like you want to, but like the realism of it, maybe not.
I definitely want to because it was super duper fun to do. Like all those Wii games, like every Wii game is kind of terrible and shitty, but also really fun. Like it's such a delightful.
Yeah.
Like I kind of think of the Wii as like the last time when video games were like really willing to be weird and different. Like nowadays it feels like at least for like the big budget games. I mean with indie games you can still find all kinds of
Oh,
crazy stuff,
for
but
sure. Yeah.
like with the when like the big studios nowadays it feels like I just for the channel I just played through Ragnarok again and then I played Horizon Forbidden West and now I'm playing Elden Ring and they all kind of feel they all feel quite similar. Like they're all these kind of open world games, and they have these crafting elements, and they have kind of similar sorts of puzzles and things, and they all just feel. I mean, they're very different games in a lot of ways, but they feel kind of, I don't know, like modern gaming, or it just feels like it's kind of all meshed together. But
Hmm.
like on the Wii, everything is so weird and bizarre because, especially the early ones, when developers just had no clue like how to use this new control scheme. Like the first year of Wii games are just they're just like they're so bizarre and weird and dysfunctional. Like they're just a complete delight.
Yeah.
So I would love to keep doing videos about them. And I keep thinking I stopped on there was a Scarface video game for the Wii,
Oh.
and that's what I was about to do, and I never got to it. And I think about it sometimes because I've never played it, and I just think to myself, what is Scarface on the Wii like? Like, what could that game possibly look like? Like, it must just be something completely weird.
I can't
But
even. I don't even feel like I can come up with a visual for that. I'm trying to think of what that kind of game would look like, and I imagine like a de-escalated GTA maybe, because they.
I think
I don't
that's
know.
it. I think, and the fun thing is that my next two, it was going to be Scarface, and then there was a Godfather game on the Wii too,
Oh
and
boy.
those were going to be back to back of like
Well, of course they have to
weird
be.
crime, weird crime shooter games on the Wii. and I I just think about both of those of how much fun they must be to play and how much fun they would be to make a video about. But it
Yeah.
just takes those Wii videos took so much time. Like, is you'd have to play the
Mhm.
whole stupid game in a week and then put together a video about it.
Oh right, because you were doing weekly uploads at that
Mm.
point, weren't you? Or do you still have a weekly upload schedule?
I'm doing weekly right now. For a while last year, like for the first 6 months of last year, I was doing a 2 a week schedule.
Hmm.
And I don't even know how I did that at this point. Like now, it like 1 a week feels like it takes so much freaking time. I think I must have just been working constantly. I kind of early on I had this fear that that it was just like a flash in the pan thing. Like any video I thought, well, this is going to be the last video anybody ever watches. So
Hmm.
while the algorithm is looking at me, I need to make as much content as possible right now.
Yeah.
But and maybe it paid off. I mean, the channel grew a ton last year, so maybe it was worthwhile, but it was. I don't know how I even did that. I don't know how that was physically possible
Hmm.
to put out
Now,
two like 30, 40 minute videos every week.
yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, really thinking about like, because I assume you're editing them. You don't have. I
Mm,
mean, you don't have anybody else that you don't like outsource that sort of thing yet.
no,
Yeah, so that's quite a workload.
it was. I don't know. It didn't feel that crazy at the time, but in hindsight, I don't know. I mean, I was living with my parents at the time, so that helps when
Hmm.
when you're not paying rent and there's somebody else cooking all the food for you. But
Yeah, true. In kind of a similar vein of the every Wii game thing, what would you say of the ones you've played is your like was the most fun and you feel is probably your favorite?
of the Wii games,
Yeah, of just specifically Wii games.
oh gosh, of the ones that I played for the channel, um, I would say Red Steel was probably my favorite. It was a launch title for the Wii. I don't know. It was like a big deal for like 5 minutes until it came out, and then everyone saw how terrible it was. But it was like the game that was supposed to be like, this is the serious game. This is the one for the serious gamers on the Wii. Like
Hmm.
this isn't just a kids system. This is for the adults too. And so there was this weird like violent mature samurai game called Red Steel that launched with the Wii, developed by Ubisoft,
Hmm.
and it's terrible. Like it's an atrocious game, but it's it's just that early Wii clunkiness where
Yeah.
it has all these weird ideas about how to use the controls. Like to zoom in on your scope, it wants you to like lunge your controller forward towards the TV,
Oh.
which is like a fun idea, but as soon as you try to do it, you instantly realize like, oh, this is terrible. Like this doesn't work at all. But it has a ton of stuff like that where it has these kind of cool, weird ideas, and almost none of them really work, but it's very fun. It's a blast to play. I really liked that one.
Hmm.
I don't know. There's something fun about the ways in which they don't work. Just the weird,
Hmm.
especially now that they're all like every Wii game is like a bargain bin, $5. Who cares? But
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, a story tying into that. So, I to kind of give a full backstory to it. Over the New Year, I had visited Nepal,
hmm.
and in doing so, I'm like, I need to play Far Cry 4 again because that was kind of set. The place
Hmm.
was very inspired by there, and so when I got back, I started doing that, and at this point, like I had slowly been like researching your channel and trying to figure out when I'm actually going to try to schedule something, and I was like, I think it'd be really fun to do like an actual video game review of the Far Cry series once I finish this. But I don't know, maybe, and so it's just kind of a thought.
Hmm.
And then so that's in the back of my mind. And then I'm researching your channel to make my questions and stuff, and I see the hidden Far Cry Wii game.
Oh
I'm like, oh,
yeah.
wait a minute.
Oh.
Now what's this? And so I was looking into it, and first off, it looks ridiculous. I started
Hmm.
playing Far Cry 1, and that one itself is ridiculous. But put that onto a Wii, I'm very intrigued. So
Hmm.
I figure eventually I'm going to cover that. But it's on my Amazon wish list. It's $15 on Amazon, which part of me does not feel okay with spending.
That's shocking that it's that much.
Yeah.
That that Far Cry Wii game. That game is a delight. I really liked that game a lot, but it's terrible. It's really bad.
But I have it in I had it in my Amazon wish list for a bit. Now, last week we went down to Texas and we spent the week down there and stuff, and there was some different stuff we had been going on, and my wife really likes going to bookstores and seeing what they got and all that. And so we go to a half price books and I see a video game section. And I'm like, oh, all right, probably some discounted things for Xbox or something. I see a Wii section. I'm like, no shot, they've got it. I got it for $6.
That's awesome.
So I that was my most recent game purchase, and I'm very much looking forward to it because
That
of the
game is
video that
definitely worth.
you made.
It's worth $6 for sure. I guarantee you will get $6 worth of fun out of that game.
It looks like it. I got to rewatch the video you made on it because there was some combination of like lunging and shooting or something that was like just
Yeah, it
bananas.
had. I remember it had a jump that was like. I mean, I've never seen anything like it in a video game before. You could jump like 2 stories high for some reason,
Yeah,
and then you could. But it had like a melee attack that was like a homing melee attack. You just swing the controller, and your character would just fly like a heat-seeking missile towards the nearest bad guy,
that's what it
and you
was.
could combine those two, and you could just fly through the air and just waggle your stupid controller around, and your character would just like instantly kill everyone in the room. It was just a ridiculous game.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to playing that one. Anyway, coming back to your content a bit. In the early days, I say, in your earlier videos, uh, it seemed to be a running bit to just take a fat crap on Brad Pitt. is there is there a story behind that? Is there like a movie or an instance that just made him your enemy, or was it just a running bit?
It was just I believe deep down inside that actors are really dumb. I think and I do recognize, there are multiple kinds of intelligence, and it does require some form of intelligence to be able to like get on a weird fake set surrounded by, a bunch of people holding camera equipment and like put on a performance and pretend to be like a real person or whatever. That requires some form of intelligence, but it's not the same kind of intelligence that makes you sound smart, like in interviews and
Mm.
things. Like every author or actor interview is like it just. I mean, it's not their fault. They're beautiful and they're stupid, just as like a species. And I don't remember where I heard somebody told me that like Brad Pitt is the dumbest of the dumbest, which who cares? He's beautiful and he's like a millionaire, but
Yeah, because he doesn't
he's
have to
just
be
a
smart, but
he's just a big dum dum, which it's not a. So those jokes they weren't meant to be malicious. I love actors. I love what they do. I love movies. I love how beautiful they are, but they're just a bunch of dum dums, and that's fine. So anytime early on, it was just a running joke of anytime I was referring to something stupid, I'd just throw up a picture of Brad Pitt just to get my point across.
that's awesome. All right. Um, it's clear that when you've covered God of War, that they perform well. Those videos do pretty well. And looking at the other view counts of the other games and videos that you've done, they don't perform poorly, but they don't, they're not quite the same often enough. I ask kind of my own experience with it. The game Grounded on my channel, I started doing some videos on that, and that performed very well. But now, whenever I do something that I'm kind of, I'm more intrigued by, I want to do something that I want to make, they don't perform as well. Have you felt any sort of like struggle with that to where it's like you feel stuck in like a God of War sort of, thing where it's like, I don't know. Do you feel tied to that game? And if you do you have any sort of advice to like deal with that feeling of like, or deal with that situation of like feeling tied to one game but wanting to move on to something different?
Um, Maybe it's. I would say it's complicated in the sense that, like, you're right that the God of War videos do a million times better than anything else. So there's this incentive to keep doing the God of War. But at the same time, God of War is sort of the perfect one for that to be the case because, especially with these two Norse games, is that there are just so many characters that are so well written. Like, I couldn't have gotten luckier with like which franchise I got stuck to.
Okay.
Like, so there is some of like, I don't know, but I think I've done a pretty good job of like very quickly. I don't know. After I'd made like 3 or 4 God of War videos, I did a few Last of Us ones, and those did quite well. Also, not nearly as well, but I don't know. I mean, Last of Us is similar to God of War in that it's just such a fantastic story, and it's just so well written and so endlessly interesting. But then I've been able to like kind of jump back and forth, like do a couple God of War and then do like a bunch of Resident Evil videos, and those all kind of do fine.
Hmm.
So I mean, if I had gotten stuck for the past 2 years doing nothing but God of War, that would have been miserable. But I
Okay.
think that since I've been able to jump into other things pretty regularly, it's
Okay.
been okay.
Yeah.
It is kind of an endless, I don't know, not frustration, but like impossible question as to like what videos are people actually going to watch? Like,
Hmm.
because I constantly am surprised. I'll throw out like when Alan Wake 2 came out, because
Hmm.
I liked Alan Wake 2 and both of them so much. I was like, oh, I bet a bunch of people will want to watch this. But then that had some of my like lowest view counts ever, and I'm like, well, this is just baffling. And then like,
Actually, not to interrupt you, but when I was looking through your channel, I saw that, and at work, my boss was like super in love with that game, and so I heard a lot about it, and I'm like, oh, you covered it, cool. And I was very surprised also
hmm,
by just that it didn't perform as well, because I mean, just hearing as much as I did about it, and then like he talked about the community and the overall like player count at the time and this different stuff, whatever, like not just his experience with it, but the game as a whole. Yeah, it was kind of surprising.
yeah,
But
it's endlessly like I don't understand. Trying to figure out what people will click on. I guess I've tried to think of it like anytime, like I never ever want to make a video just because I think people will watch it. Like I never ever want to just be cynically chasing views and money. Like I
yeah.
think that would just be miserable. But you also, I think you never want to be like in a space where I was when I was doing those Wii videos, where you're really excited about something but no one else on the planet
Hmm.
cares about what you care about. Like
Yeah.
you want to find that weird perfect um like cross section where like the things you're excited about match the things that other people out there in the world are excited about. And I don't
Hmm.
really know. It seems to just be luck because it doesn't really make sense most of the time.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I guess in asking that too, I mean, we have different types of content. I started out a lot with how tos, and then I moved into trying to do more entertaining, like creating like this kind of story or a challenge kind of ordeal. So the
Hmm.
format's way different. And then I guess I didn't really think about. I mean, you definitely appear to thoroughly enjoy the God of War games as well. So it's not just like and maybe I'm, I mean, maybe I'm wrong there, but it doesn't seem to be this like. There's an element of like maybe I'm wanting to cover something else, but I also really like this game, so I might as well since it's working well.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm completely
I
wrong
will
there, but
say I don't want to play God of War Ragnarok again for like the only reason I recently replayed it was because my stupid hard drive failed and it had
oh
all of my
no.
footage on it. And I thought the last time I played it, I played the PS5 version. And I was like, well, this is the last time I'll ever play because now this is the version that looks really nice. And then because of Elgato's recording software is so freaking garbage, all of that turned out to be useless. And then I had to replay it all again immediately. Like that was back around Christmas or December. And then I was like, okay, that's the last time I actually have to play all the way through. And then the hard drive crashed,
Oh
and I was like, "Oh
no.
my gosh,
So there was
I
a
have
third
to
time.
play
Okay.
this." I've played God of War Ragnarok like, oh my gosh, like 6 or 7 times at this point, and
Okay.
I definitely, I don't know. I mean, there are times. I mean, it's a fantastic game, so there are times when it's still very fun, especially. I mean, I don't know, but it's the combat is so you can do different little things. Like it's kind of varied enough that you can play the game in a new way, but oh my gosh, there are times when I'm playing it and I'm like, what is this? Like,
Okay.
this
No,
is so
that.
boring. I can't believe I'm playing this again. But what a silly problem to have. Like compared to gosh, so much of the world is on fire and I'm over here like, "Oh no, I have to play one of the best games ever made again." Oh gosh, woe is me, you know.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
very it's a very silly problem to have. It's a silly thing to complain about.
All right. That's a different perspective on it that I. Yeah. Okay. Um, Something else I noticed is that pretty early on it seemed that you landed on a a thumbnail style that has worked pretty well. And I mean, really, it I don't know. It's like it because of the contrast and just like it's kind of like the black and white and then the red and stuff. It pops and it makes it look serious, and the video is usually a serious review of it with humor scattered throughout. When you had initially created this style, like what kind of led to toying with a thumbnail that then landed on that style? Was there any considerations or strategy involved? Did you see it somewhere and it's like, I'm gonna do that, or what?
I don't know. It was very. I think the first time I did it, I felt like an idiot because the first time I did it was that first God of War video. And I think it says something like, this was unprecedented, I think is what that thumbnail says.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered when I made the unprecedented red, I felt like a moron. Like I felt this looks so goofy. But I did that, and then that one got a bunch of views, and then I've just done the exact same thing over and over again ever since. Because it's like, why experiment if it keeps working?
I
Why
mean,
do anything different?
yeah. I mean, feel goofy about it or not, it worked. So why
It
fix it
just
or why
there's
change it?
just something about it where, like, when I read it out loud, I want to be like, this was unprecedented, and it's just something about the red. It just feels like it's shouting at you, but I don't know, there's something about it that works, and
It's
I've
such a
never even
bold
really tried
declaration.
to like think about it or anything. It just keeps working, so I keep doing it.
Okay. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Um, Taking a little bit of a step back from the videos themselves and just looking at like video creation as a whole. I wanted to ask about your creative kind of the process that leads to a video, So starting with like how you decide what the video is going to be about, what topic you want to cover, what kind of, take you want to go for. And after that's been decided, what steps you take until publish. Like what's the general flow of things?
Okay. Well, I mean, it always starts with playing through a game, and I play a lot more games. Like, I record a lot more games than I actually make videos for. 'Cause there's a lot that, I don't know, seem like they'll have interesting stories, and then you get in there and they kind of don't. Like, I just played a bit of Dragon's Dogma, which I thought, another fantasy RPG thing. This will be like
Mm-hmm.
right up my alley, and it was pretty fun to play, but the story just wasn't really there. So I like moved on. That happens a lot, but sometimes, I mean, you play the game and then there's something interesting about it. There are characters that are interesting that you want to talk about, and then write out the essay. I do 3,000 words a day on an essay usually,
No.
which can usually get them done in 2 or 3 days, and then just record myself reading it, then edit the audio, uh, just cut a bunch of gameplay clips along to the audio. It's like, I don't know how I keep getting away with it. It's such a simple editing process that it feels like the thing that kept me out of making videos for so many years is that I'd watch video essays and they have all these like very professional, very like elaborate uh like transitions and effects and things, and I'm like, well, I don't know. I know literally nothing about video editing, so I'll never be able to do any of that, but I've been able to, like, people don't seem to care. Like,
Yeah.
my videos are so I mean, they're like a school child could make these videos where you just cut uh, gameplay clips that kind of vaguely match whatever you're talking about, and people go along with it. But yeah, and then upload it and put together. Nowadays, I've started doing the chapters and the tags and things to
Mm.
see if that
Mhm.
makes any difference. But it's all pretty simple. It's a very simple process. I think anybody could be doing this. It's so simple.
What is the usual kind of like, I guess, timeline on that whole process?
Um, I've gotten it down to like a week, I would say.
Okay.
Or well, for making the video, playing the games usually, it takes us
Well, yeah,
however long it takes to play through a whole game.
factoring out that part, because yeah, that can be, you know, questionable or time to complete question mark, but when it comes to, yeah, the video creation itself is what I was, yeah.
You can do, I don't know, like at 3,000 words a day for writing. Once I started doing that, that really helped a lot. Like before, I was only writing like maybe 1,000 words,
Hmm.
and then it takes you a whole week to write one video. But
Sure. Did that 3,000, is that just kind of like a, I don't know if there's a better word for it than quota, but just a thing that you kind of created where you're like, this is what my goal is to do for the
yeah,
day, or
for I mean, I've got like I don't have any other job right now, so like I can spend my whole day writing, and
hmm,
that's not a problem. But yeah, I guess it's arbitrary. I mean, I figured out like I did 1,000 a day for a while, and then I did 2,000 a day a while. Now that I've hit on three, that definitely I've found that works for a weekly schedule. Like you start
yeah,
writing on Sunday, and then you can usually by Saturday you can be have something done
hmm,
at
okay,
3,000 a day.
yeah. Just a random question I kind of had come to mind now. For an average video of yours, how many words is the script?
Um, and it varies a great deal. I would say somewhere between, and they've gotten longer over time,
Hmm.
which makes me sad sometimes because they take so freaking long. But um, between 5 and 10,000 broadly,
Okay. Okay.
which people always, whenever I tell people word counts, they're always like, "Well, how many pages is that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know how many pages it is."
Yeah. What would you say you are most proud of regarding your time on YouTube? Maybe it's an event, maybe it's a project you've completed. Really could be anything.
Yeah, that's interesting because like I mentioned, I just finished another book and I'm going through the terrible process where you have to submit it to agents again.
Hmm.
And it's just a horrible, awful time. But the one difference this time I have is that I have this channel, which I didn't have before,
Hmm.
which I can throw into my bio when I submit, and can tell them, "Hey, I'm FatBrett," which feels pretty. Made me kind of question the name of like, oh gosh, why did I call it that? Because now I look like a freaking goofball to all these people. But and then because you can add a trailer for people who have never seen the channel before, and I was
Hmm.
like, what video do I put on here for all of these very serious literary agents to be the first thing they see when they look up my channel?
Yeah.
And I was going through the entire catalog and being like, which one of these is the one that's not going to scare these people away? And I ended up settling on the Breath of the Wild video, which
Okay.
now
I think.
I wouldn't call that my proudest one, but
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, that one was really fun because Breath of the Wild, it doesn't have much in the way of cutscenes. It was all kind of told through environmental storytelling, which then gave me the chance to just to just write out the story as I saw it. Like that was a lot of like looking at a battlefield and then me kind of flexing my creative writing prose muscles and trying to describe it in like a tragic, emotional sort of way. And I was like, well, maybe this is what like a literary agent would like to hear.
Interesting.
Which doesn't quite answer your question, but I don't know, just that it exists at all. The fact that the channel, like when it hit 1 year after the after it took off, like 1 year of just making the Wii videos that no one watches, who cares? But like 1 year of people consistently watching it, that was really awesome. That was really cool.
Yeah. And it did look like, I mean, because have you only been uploading to that for, like, how long have you been uploading?
It was May 2022, I think, when the first video went up.
So really, you've grown rather quick. I mean, because
You
if the
know,
first year was taken up by doing just, Wii games and stuff, it's like, even factoring in that, like that still is pretty impressive, I feel like. Because usually it's like people are like, you just gotta keep making videos and one of them will eventually go. And it's like usually it takes 10 years or something.
I've tried to look up that question of like, how does this growth compare to like, I mean, I don't even know what, not average growth, but any growth at all, to be like, am I doing well? It's like, I mean, every single article that pops up on Google is, like a clickbait.
Oh, yeah.
Worthless information. So I can't find any. I have tried and have never once found like a useful, real sounding statistic for like growth of YouTube channels. Like I've run into the same thing you do with like forums where people are like, oh, just keep, it'll take 5 years to get to 100 and then it'll take 10 to get to 1,000 subscribers. And then you're off to the races. Like all these people, it's clear that it's just like no one, I guess YouTube is still just new enough that no one has any clue like how success on this platform actually works. Like everybody is just shooting blanks in the dark and no one, like even people who are actually successful have no idea what it actually was that they did that worked.
Something I didn't do earlier, actually, that this made me think of is usually I kind of give a background to, like, not that anybody necessarily cares, but to why I kind of wanted to start interviewing content creators and doing this. And part of it is because I'd like to, I thoroughly enjoy making content. I'd like to make it work. I'd love to figure out growth and stuff, but I'm so tired of the canned responses that all the YouTube guru channels have and those clickbaity articles, and it's just like it all says different iterations of the same crap and none of it's useful. And so it's like kind of looking at more of like what's worked for different creators, what is their personal story that they can, it's like I feel like case studies in this situation are more useful in a way. Plus I just like meeting new people and talking about making videos and video games and all that stuff. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, it makes sense. I remember I've wanted to do a podcast where I just interview authors about the first book they ever got published. Just what the process was for like, how long did it take you to actually get going and how many failures did you run into and things like that. Just the, like, I find just the process of how do you get from 0 to 1 is fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. A question I had earlier too that I forgot to actually integrate it someplace that made sense. So now I'm going to ask it here. I had seen there was a video in there where you announced the rebranding. It was, you were no longer really emphasizing the Wii games. You were doing something different, so you're renaming the channel to FatBrett.
Mhm.
And then you did kind of a fun, like, I can't even begin to whatever. But so my question with it was, what why'd you choose FatBrett?
It was just the name I was using on, on like Steam and stuff at the time. It
Oh,
was just, it was first because I had been playing an exercise game for a while, and then, and I had an account on it that was just called Brett, and then, I stopped doing it for a while and I got fatter, and so I made a new account to start over, and now I was
okay.
Fat Brett because I was bigger this time, and then
Oh,
I just thought the name was kind of funny, so I just kept using it. And I
okay.
couldn't think when I was renaming the channel, I just couldn't think of anything that I don't know, that didn't sound like pretentious. Like I can't remember
Yeah.
the ones I was like looking through like uh I can't remember any of them, but they all just sounded
Yeah. I feel like if you're, I don't know, it's like if you're reviewing games and in-depth talking about stuff like that, and I feel that you do it, first off, extremely well. I have enjoyed the videos that I've watched of yours, which isn't, I don't know, whatever. Um, I feel like if you try to summarize that to kind of like have the channel title be reflective of what you're doing, it probably is a pretty interesting thing to navigate and try to like weed out the pretentious sounding things.
mm,
So I can picture that being probably actually, yeah, pretty kind of maybe a struggle.
even just trying to explain it to like real people in real life of like what I'm doing is very like there's just no version of it that I usually just say, well, I make videos about video games, and then they'll be like, oh, are you like really good at them? And I'm like, no, I'm not really good at the games at all. I just do videos about the stories or whatever. There's not really any like I ran into that problem again with trying to explain like putting in my bio to these literary agents. It's such a terrible process where you have to like describe yourself and list your credentials and kind of puff yourself up to them, and it's
Mm,
every part of it's terrible, but trying to like how do I explain to these people who have never played a video game in their life probably that
mm,
I'm doing videos about video games, but they're not goofy like Minecraft videos. They're
mm,
something a little more serious and a little more creative. I don't want to say more creative. I mean, people who do gameplay videos are constantly doing creative things, but creative in a different way, in a writing
mm.
way instead of in a typical content creation way. And how the heck do you explain this to anyone without sounding like a crazy person?
Yeah, yeah, because I imagine they're at least the assumption would be, like you said, maybe more than likely they probably have never played a video game, so their idea of a video game is way different,
Mm. Yeah, they're thinking
and
of
kind
Candy
of,
Crush and
yeah,
Mario.
or like toddlers screaming at an iPad, or
Mm,
it's like their idea is not on the same level, so like immediately they're going to get the wrong idea by furthering it, unless yeah you take a different approach of explaining.
trying to explain to my poor grandparents what I do has been I mean, it's just an impossible.
Mm.
It just
Yeah.
I was able to say I made enough that I bought a car. And they were like, "Okay, now we understand. You bought a car." That's something we can get our heads around. Not that that was all from YouTube money, but it helped a great deal.
Hmm.
But then they were like, "Okay, you're doing something that lets you buy cars. We understand that."
Hmm. So, I have one remaining question, and then something I actually two questions, and then I put out a community post, and was just like, hey, any questions for, I don't recall how I didn't say who I was interviewing, but like, I don't know how I phrased it. But anyway, any questions? And so I've got one there from somebody. But before I get to that, this is a bit of a random question, but I ventured into your Twitter a bit and saw that you read the book Annihilation. This is one that I've been really wanting to read myself and explore because I saw the movie and thoroughly enjoyed it. I love the way that just the visual and all of the storyline of it, different stuff. I was wondering if you had read the entirety of that whole, like, I think it was called the Southern Reach series. And if so, like, what would you recommend it?
I would absolutely recommend that first book for sure. That first book is it is a how do I explain? It is it's so very focused. Like it's such a perfectly, like so many books have kind of a problem of being sort of meandering and wandering and sort of focusless, which is kind of what happens to the second and third books in that trilogy. But the first one is a beautiful specimen of just craft. Like even if you don't care about the story, it's just so tight and so fast paced and so perfect. It's like I don't know if you ever saw the movie 1917, the World War One.
I did.
It had that movie does such a fantastic job of just moving forward. Like it sets a very clear, like this is our destination, this is what we have to reach, and every single minute of the movie we're getting closer to that goal. And that's something that Annihilation, the first book, does an absolutely fantastic job of. Like that's something that I was like, as I was prepping my manuscript to give to agents, I was like, why don't I know how to do this? Like if this is like and it's not easy to do, to get that kind of focus. Like it seems like it should be really simple, but yeah, I would absolutely, if the question is would I recommend reading that first one, I would absolutely, for sure. It's just a fantastic fantastic book.
Yeah, and I should have clarified the question further, just being that opinion on the other books in the series, because like I know the general gist of Annihilation and all, but I think you kind of answered that as well in there. Just because
I mean, if you love that first one, which you should because it's fantastic, I would give him a shot. But it definitely, I don't know, whatever kind of focus or pace he had, he just didn't. Like a lot of authors, it's hard to maintain over 3 books that kind of pace, and he didn't nail it. He didn't manage it, but they're still they're fascinating, the second and third, in a way that the movie wasn't. I mean, that movie was like not a very long movie, right? Like an hour and a half at most. So
it was rather short.
And those books definitely explore a great deal more of that concept in a way that's worthwhile, I think.
Okay. So I had, like I said, I put out a community post. I'm trying to find it so I can pull it up. Where do I even go for this? Oh, there it is. Okay. Community. So what I asked was, I'm interviewing a content creator that does video essays and analysis on video games. What questions do you have for channels like this? And I figured I'll just read the question that I got and see your input on it.
Okay.
Part of for me personally, I was laughing at the whatever they just wrote. Most attractive Harley Quinn model from the Arkham games. So,
That's fun. Oh, gosh, it's been a million years since I played any of those games. I'm sure they were all very attractive from my memory of what Harley Quinn looked like. I'm sure they all looked very nice.
I didn't expect an actual answer. I just wondered. I wanted to see what your reaction was from it
It's
because I
fun.
saw that and I'm like, oh, really?
Mm.
All right. Thanks, the Randy Fast 4353. Um, but anyway, okay. So my last question to you is, what does the future of your channel hold? Are there any upcoming projects? I guess with that, you would mention the sorry, hopefully the book. But with your channel, any upcoming projects you're excited about? A long-term goal or anything?
I'm definitely very grateful for From Software making a DLC for Elden Ring
Hmm.
because it gives me an excuse to do a bunch of videos about Elden Ring because I really adore like the world building and the storytelling
Hmm.
in all of those, in all of From Software's, like everything since Demon Souls has been. Like I was kind of lucky enough that I was doing the channel when this most recent Armored Core game came out because I really liked the story and world building in that one. But I mean that's nothing compared to what they did in Elden Ring. Like it definitely felt like Elden Ring is like the like what would the word be, like the building up of like 10 years of them
Hmm.
making these kinds of stories and then just sort of hitting this perfect I don't know. I'm not even sure what words to use, but I adore that story and I'm very excited to get to do videos about it, which is else I have no idea whether anyone will watch them, but I'm very excited to do them for sure because that's a very different one because most of mine have been like the Sony style, lots of cutscenes that you can watch, whereas
Hmm.
those Dark Souls games, it's all in the environment and it's all in those item descriptions
Yeah.
and you're always just kind of piecing things together, and that's really like a fascinating way to try to like there are so many videos about like Dark Souls where people are literally just telling you what the story is
Hmm.
because it can be so hard, but like to take that one more level and to try to like ask like what are the themes here, like what is the narrative analysis here, I think is going to be super duper fun. And as I've been playing it, I don't know, I'm very excited about that one. I think that'll be a blast.
Cool. Yeah. It's it's always nice to have that kind of. I don't know. It's cool to hear that you're excited about that kind
Hmm.
of the potential of videos coming from that because of how much you. I don't know. Just different things to talk about and learn about, even in some ways. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be really cool if anybody watches them. Which I just feel is never a
Did
guarantee.
I did see that you had created a I think at least one on Elden Ring, right? Did that
I did one
perform?
last August maybe where it was I was kind of looking at kind of the Dark Souls series as a whole, including Elden Ring, and I think that one it did okay.
Okay, I see. Yeah, that was a game I wanted to play. Um, I had a bunch of friends that were hyping it up and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna live stream it as soon as it comes out.
Hmm.
And went to do that, and the game crashed. Oh, well, common theme, I suppose. Um, but I couldn't get it to work on stream. I just abandoned it, and I never come back to it. So I would really like to eventually play that, but um, that's just a random little thing that nobody asked for. But anyway,
It's a delight. I mean, it's a delight if you're into that kind of thing. I don't know.
sure, yeah. But anyway, I figure we'll wrap up this game, and I guess yeah, because that was my last question for you. Is there any closing comments or input or anything.
I appreciate that you asked
how we did
about
this.
the Wii stuff. I don't get to talk about Wii games very often, and I really adore Wii games and talking about Wii games. So that was fun.
Oh, cool. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you have a content creator whose story you want to hear, please comment their channel name and I'll try to get them as a guest. If you are a content creator that would love to share your story, please fill out the linked request form in the description. Otherwise, we'll see you next time for another episode of Uno Mas.